There is a man who drives a 10-year-old Honda Accord to work every morning. He packs lunch. He wears the same 5 shirts on rotation. He has never owned a watch that costs more than $200. His neighbors think he works in insurance. His kids go to public school. He is worth $47 million, and he is not the exception. He is the rule. We have spent the last 2 decades being sold a very specific image of wealth: the penthouse, the yacht, the Rolex catching light at exactly the right angle. Instagram made it a religion. TikTok turned it into a career. And somewhere along the way, we started confusing the performance of wealth with wealth itself. That confusion is not accidental, and it is costing people more than they realize. Here is what nobody tells you about money at the top. The people who have the most of it are almost always the least visible, not because they are hiding, but because they stopped needing anyone to know. This is called stealth wealth, and it is not a trend. It is not a lifestyle aesthetic that rich people discovered on Pinterest. It is the natural endpoint of actually understanding what money is for. But to understand why the truly rich disappear into ordinary life, you first have to understand what they figured out that most people never do. Let's go back to 2008. The financial crisis wiped out trillions in paper wealth almost overnight. But something interesting happened in the aftermath. The people who lost the most were not the ones with the most money. They were the ones with the most visible money. Leveraged to the hilt, houses they couldn't afford, cars financed at rates that only made sense if the market kept going up forever. The crash did not just take their assets, it took the entire identity they had built around those assets. Meanwhile, a quieter group barely flinched. They had assets that were boring, diversified, and deeply unglamorous. Index funds, real estate held for decades, businesses that generated cash without requiring a press release. They did not look rich before the crash. They did not look rich after it either, but they were still there, still solvent, still compounding. The crisis was not just an economic event, it was a sorting mechanism. Now here's the uncomfortable math. The average American household spends roughly 1 in every $3 of income on what economists call status signaling. Cars, clothes, vacations, gadgets, things purchased at least partly because of how they look to other people. 1 in $3, not going to assets, not compounding, just burning quietly in the service of an audience that mostly isn't paying attention. A study out of Emory University found that luxury car ownership actually correlates negatively with net worth once you control for income. In plain terms, the people driving the most expensive cars tend to have less money saved than the people driving ordinary ones at the same income level. This is not a coincidence, it is arithmetic. A $60,000 car, financed over 5 years, with insurance, depreciation, and maintenance, costs the average buyer somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 per month. That same money, invested consistently over 20 years at a 7% return, becomes roughly $350,000. The car becomes a memory in a decade. The money becomes a number that changes your life. The rich know this, not because they are smarter, because they ran the numbers and decided they liked the number more than the car. But there is something deeper going on than just math. There is a psychological shift that happens at a certain level of wealth, and it is almost never talked about. When you no longer need external validation from your possessions, the possessions lose their appeal. It sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but most people never reach that threshold because they keep spending in ways that prevent them from reaching it. It is a trap with a very elegant design. The more you spend on looking wealthy,
the less wealthy you actually become, which increases the psychological pressure to spend more on looking wealthy. Round and round. The people who escape this loop do not do it through discipline alone. They do it by genuinely changing what they find impressive. Old money families understood this for generations. There is a reason the phrase quiet luxury exists. There is a reason the wealthiest zip codes in America are often indistinguishable from comfortable middle-class ones. The aesthetic of restraint is not modesty, it is confidence. It says, I have nothing to prove to you. Now contrast that with what the culture has been selling. Since roughly 2010, an entire economy has been built around the performance of aspiration. Influencers monetize lifestyles they often cannot afford. Brands have learned to rent the imagery of wealth is more profitable than selling actual quality. You can buy a belt with a logo on it for $400 that costs $12 to make, and that belt will signal something to people who also cannot afford it. The fashion houses know this. The car brands know this. The watch companies have known it for 100 years. They are not selling products. They are selling the feeling of arrival to people who haven't arrived. And business is extraordinary. Meanwhile, the actual arrived are shopping at Costco in quiet shoes and reinvesting their dividends. The irony is almost too clean. There are deeper implications here that go beyond personal finance. When a culture becomes obsessed with the optics of wealth, it loses the ability to accurately read what wealth actually is. This has real consequences. It means we celebrate the wrong people. We elect the wrong people. We model our financial behavior on a class of high earners who are often one bad quarter away from collapse, while ignoring the actual accumulators who look like nobody. It distorts what people optimize for. A doctor who earns $400,000 a year and spends $380,000 of it on a lifestyle built to signal success is not wealthy. She is highly paid and financially fragile. A teacher who earns $60,000, lives on $45,000, and has been investing for 30 years might have more genuine financial security than most people she'll ever meet. We have no vocabulary for this. Our culture does not have a good story to tell about the person who is quietly, boringly, patiently building something invisible. So we keep telling the other story. Now here's where it gets strange. Stealth wealth is becoming its own kind of signal. Among a certain tier of the genuinely wealthy, conspicuous consumption has become a marker of new money, of insecurity, of not quite being there yet. The most expensive restaurants in major cities look like diners. The most exclusive neighborhoods have no gates. The watch that costs $200,000 looks almost identical to the one that costs $200,000. Obscurity has become a luxury product, which means at some point the whole system folds back on itself. What does it mean to signal restraint as a status symbol? Is that not just another performance? Is there an exit from the performance entirely? Or does wealth at every level always find a way to make itself known? That question is worth sitting with, because the man in the Honda Accord is real, and so is the influencer leasing a Ferrari to film content in, and both of them are doing something very human, trying to locate themselves in a hierarchy they didn't design. The difference is just the math. One of them is getting richer while you watch. The other is getting poorer while you admire. The question is not which life looks better on camera. The question is which one you are building.